Welcome to the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. Today is Monday, October 21st. We'll go around the room and we'll introduce ourselves. This is the first meeting of this advisory subcommittee for this school year. It is a new advisory subcommittee that we approved through school committee this year. And we'll be meeting monthly, especially through the budget process. So we'll just go around. Kenny Dubas, Superintendent.
James Sheehan, School Committee Member.
Jennifer Lima, School Committee Member.
Bob Jones, Community Member.
Leslie Ann Powell, Finance Director.
We do have student representation on this committee that I know one was unable to be here. The other one might be just running late. So the next item on the agenda is public comment. There's no one here from the public to comment, so we'll go on to the next item. And the next item is the purpose of the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. I know you asked for that.
Yeah, so just the purpose of looking at what we can do, and this kind of jives with item number 4. I want to see if we could set up, maybe we take the vote today, we don't have to take a vote, on what types of things we want to pull forward. I'm trying to pull it up on my laptop, but I'm not connecting to the network here. So I'm looking for things that we could do periodically, looking at, say, on a quarterly basis at least, our financials in general. There are other items that are coming up if we are successful, and I hope we are, with an approval of the school bond. I'd like to see if we could look at, on a continual basis, periodically look in to see what's going on with the construction costs and expenses, just to follow that, make sure that all of our money is being spent correctly as we expect it would be. And then any other items that we have for oversight functions, like, for example, maintenance funds. I want to keep an eye on that, just make sure we're setting aside money. Are there any projects outstanding that we need to continue and fulfill? So there's a number of things I'd like to do, and I'd like to incorporate that into our calendar.
Sorry.
No, don't worry, that's okay.
We have a student representative coming in right now. Would you want to just take a moment just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ronan Hebenor. I'm a CTE student in the Business and Finance.
Ronan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ronan, just so you know, because you're
Did we get the release from Ronan's family?
Release.
Do you have a videotape? Usually we do all this before they come to the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, do you not know a release?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Ronan, thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to see you, but until we have a release from
You're
your
off
family,
camera.
do you mind sitting off camera?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So just a clarification, there is a release for any students that appear in front of the media presence. We get parental permission first. Ronan's joining us, but he will not be on camera today. Yeah, that's fine. Just write it even at that desk.
Perfect,
Fine.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm just looking for some type of ongoing oversight and accountability for budget items, maintenance items, and also the construction cost, as well as the capital improvements that we have. Again, if the good people in North Kingstown are willing to prove that, that's something I would like to do on an ongoing basis. And that was kind of the thrust of it, Ken. And I want to come up with some specifics, either through deliberation or through suggestion at a later date as to what they would be.
So we also have, I'm just looking, let me just pause for 1 minute, I just want to look up something.
And I can tell you I had them listed, but I am not getting
I have the goals
reception.
here, but I'm just looking up one other thing before
Okay.
we proceed.
Is Rob joining us?
No, he's not.
Okay. All right, we've got some dead air here. Want to move on to maybe the next items. We can come back to this. Overview of the audit process, fiscal year 2024. Leslie, is that yours?
It was. I just wanted to give a quick synopsis of kind of where we are in the process,
Sure.
so everybody's
Sounds good.
on the
So
same
why
page.
don't we move on then to that item right there, number 5 on the agenda.
Sure. So right now, we are in the information sourcing phase. So the auditors have reached out, they've given us everything that they're looking for. So we are in the process with uploading all that information so that they can come in-house. With that, they'll be reviewing our trial balance. They'll be making sure that if they have any questions prior to their on-site field work, that we provide that with them so they can get all the systems in place, make sure that it's lining up with the town. So that's where we are right now. We are anticipating having them be on-site probably next week. So we're right on schedule with timing. I believe that they were at the town about 2 weeks ago, concluding that. So now they'll take our information and they'll combine it with what they've done there. We do have the town, there's a meeting at the town on Monday, October 28th, I believe it's at 5 p.m., where it's the official audit meeting. So I'll be there, town finance director will be there, and the auditors will be there. And he'll give a quick update on where we are in the process, what they're still waiting for, any concerns, anything that's kind of come to the forefront early on. And then we'll take that back, and like I said, we'll probably be doing our field work at the same time that we have that meeting. Everything seems to be going fairly smoothly right now. It's, we obviously have a new team of individuals working, some of us on numbers that we were not part of. So I think there's been a little bit of a lag in terms of getting the information to the auditors, at least the time frame that I would have liked to have it there. But they're still happy with our timeline. We haven't had any issues yet. So I think it's going fairly smoothly right now.
Can I just go back and ask about the release? Is there a special release for an advisory committee that the school committee put together that we send out
Yeah,
to
Jules
students?
has it, she sends it out every time.
Okay, so it's
yeah.
in addition to
Yeah.
the release that parents have already done through Aspen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's specifically, when we first started doing this, we had Andrew drafted, it's specifically related to
Okay,
this.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify, because
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah,
like
no.
through Aspen, we're set.
No, it goes out to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry
every
about that.
student who sits, yeah.
All right, Leslie,
Yes.
who does the audit now? Which,
Markham.
you tell me something about Marco? You tell me.
Markham. Oh, Markham.
Markham,
LLP.
oh, Markham.
Markham LLP,
I said
I'm
Marco,
sorry.
I thought it was an individual,
No.
like, who is this gentleman?
Markham.
Markham, I've heard, yes,
Yes.
yes, okay.
I believe they have done the audit for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
Will the school and the school committee still get a separate statement?
I believe, yes. I'm not sure what we've done in the past, but my preference is always to have the auditors come out and do their, do a presentation based on just the school information. The audit itself will be combined, so the document will be one combined.
Right, but the school department will get its own report of just school stuff.
Typically, no. Typically, it's combined with the town.
In the published audit, yes. Usually as part of the contract, the school department also got a separate document just related to school stuff. And also will the liabilities, sorry, I'm losing the term right now. The school doesn't have much of it, but the pension, the
OPEB?
OPEB,
information?
thank you.
Okay, sorry.
And we'll also get its own OPEB.
So once the OPEB report is released, the school will get a report that we then have to approve. So that I can say, yes, we do get our own report from that. Historically, I don't have that information on what we've done in the past.
Last year, we had a combined
It was
one.
combined.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that we're interested in. It's something we can certainly discuss with Markham, but I would think that it would probably come at
Last year, the
an
audit
expense.
had the school OPEB rising, which seemed to me unusual. And the allocation of those OPEB future liabilities, which seemed to me unusual because the school doesn't really have that many post-retirement benefits guaranteed. And I know you've got the old contractual from the custodial stuff, but I just something if you could
Sure, I can
report
absolutely look.
is last year's OPEB change.
We actually just received the draft, probably about a week ago from that, and I know we don't have the final because we need to approve it, and then it will need to get signed off, but I can certainly get that, that's something that we can have made available. Okay.
Okay. Any further questions? Is on item number 5. We'd like to go back to item number 4. I was able to find actually an open document. I'm not able to get online still. And at the risk of scaring you, Leslie Ann, about some of the things I'd like to look at, this is just kind of a brainstorming ideas. We'll see what's feasible, what's not feasible, given your schedule and and how busy you are with the things you ordinarily will be doing on a regular basis. So such things as regarding the budget, quarterly review of budget to actuals and fund balance. Like seeing the data, maybe have a brief analysis, not even a report on something like that. Quarterly review of special revenue funds, like the cafeteria fund, capital funds, Title I, Title II, just some type of, summary data, brief analysis. Again, quarterly basis, review of check balance, data and brief analysis, and I can send this to you too. Budget recommendations to the school committee. What type of recommendations, maybe we can save some money, consolidate some things. Then there's oversight and accountability, just looking at, on a quarterly basis, oversight of capital improvements. If, again, the bond is approved, the good people in all Kingstown support that, I hope they will, along with the middle school construction, which I mentioned earlier. And then quarterly maintenance funds, over a certain dollar amount, not looking at, maintaining, the paint on a chair, but something of a bigger nature and dollar amount, maybe over a certain dollar amount, to look at those projects and the sources of revenues for those and just kind of track them over time. So there's some of the ideas. I'll email that to you. Maybe you could get back to me and let me know what's feasible. This would be, or we do this already, or if there's redundancy, whatever it may be, to get that information. I think that's maybe a good starting point. And what I mentioned before is just like have something regular process of doing this at this level to be able to give that information to the full school committee, so it kind of like save them time and effort to do that, so they can kind of have the what you used to call the cliff notes, if you will, on some of this financial data.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense that we're reviewing these items quarterly here at this. I see the purpose of this advisory committee to be doing that, to be looking at those reports and going through that, and then providing that over to the school committee after that we are doing the work here.
Yes. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Lima, no? Nothing? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we're taking a look at run number item 6, fiscal year 25 update through 9/30/24, which includes current fund balance, enrollment report, so how much we have in the fund, enrollment, student population, how many kids are enrolled, check register through 9/30/24 with the checks, money that we've written checks for, where that is, UCOA budget file, fiscal year 2025, and lastly, revenue and expenses through 9/30/24. Ken, is that yours? Have you taken that one?
Well, Leslie has all of
Just kidding with you, Ken, you can't do it all, we have a financial director. I wouldn't be able to do it, I'm not a math guy per se. Please, Leslie.
Is there anything in particular that anyone has any questions on that you want me to start with? Is there anything that you want me to just
We
kind
can
of
take
run
them in order
down?
unless somebody has a preference.
Did
Jen?
we get the enrollment data?
That's
I received it this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
printing it right now.
So
Okay.
Our data manager who does enrollment was out of the office.
Okay,
So
no
we
worries.
had that. So we do have it, and I can forward it to you.
That
And
would
she
be great.
sent
Yep.
a significant
gonna-
amount of information.
Yeah, but I'm gonna look through the one that we can use for right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we can start with any other item, it's fine, as long as we're touching on each one, and it doesn't really matter the order. But we're gonna get their enrollment emailed over.
Yes, so
Thank you.
I'll start with the check register, because
Please.
that's probably the most straightforward.
Yep.
And so what you have now is everything from July 1 through September 30th. And I know you did reach out, you had a question about the organization of it. So the request came in to have it organized by amount, correct?
Yes, that's usually easy. I'm sure you don't want us asking about $100 things.
No, that's
right.
okay. So the way I present it right now is how the school committee members had preferred it. So this is the format. So I'm happy to, I think I sent you a PDF for the purposes of this, but I can certainly send you an Excel so that you can sort it and do it however you would like. But if it's okay, I'd like to keep it in this format because this is the standard report format that I do give to the school committee. So, okay.
Excel is wonderful.
Okay, so I will plan on, and typically I try and give both a PDF and an Excel file to PDF so that it can be uploaded should it need to.
Right. That makes sense, both of them make sense, because obviously Excel, you can manipulate the data, you can find information you want, and then PDF, once you want it uploaded, as you said, to do something with it.
Happy to do that.
Sure.
So in terms
Okay.
of the check register, the amounts that we have right now for that period of time is right on target with what we have in terms of our budget and what we would expect for a lot of the purchases that we have early in the year. So in my review of it, and I review it more often than quarterly, so I will go in and I run this report almost weekly, just so that I can make sure that there's no standouts, or if there's something that I'm anticipating being on there, and if I don't see it, I can find out why, so that we can make sure that we're timely with everything that we're paying. So in terms of what I anticipate seeing for this particular report, it was on target with me, but I don't know if anyone has any particular questions with anything that they saw in the report.
Anybody questions?
I had the one question I sent you about prepaying for services that aren't fully delivered.
Yeah, I did see it, and I apologize, I was at a Legal Institute all day today. So I am going to look into the specific question that you mentioned. We typically do not prepay.
Right.
So that is not a standard at all, so we will hold anything until the services have been rendered and we have the invoice. So with the particular item that you mentioned, I will look into that to see if it's a prepayment or if that's, which I don't anticipate that it is. But I can certainly get back to you with that specific information.
Okay.
And Bob, if you could clarify what item that was, just for the record. That was on tuition, right?
No, that was
No.
on the
No,
check
I'm sorry.
register. That was.
Oh, okay.
It was.
Just because we were going alphabetical was one of the A's.
Okay.
And I think I have it in, I have the email here, so let me see.
I
if
think
can-
it was the payment to core shifts.
Okay.
It looked like the full amount, and I didn't know if that was from last year's work finally being paid, or if it was a prepay for this year's work, which, again, is a little unusual.
Right, so I'll have to go
prepay
and,
the full amount prior to services being delivered.
I know typically in that instance, if we know what the services are, we will encumber it, and
Right.
we'll pay it as the services are rendered, so I will dig into that a little bit deeper.
The other question I had is not for all these, but occasionally, the activity account checks.
Okay.
How are they, they're sort of processed through the same account. I mean, it's one big pot. I know you notionally have, or do you keep,
They're separate bank accounts for
Okay.
every student activity account.
yeah, okay.
We do, and they're reconciled monthly, and they're reconciled at the school level, and then they're sent to our office to reconcile them again, and to balance them out with the ledger.
Yeah, I mean, could we, every other register, get a summary of those?
I can,
I
I
can
would,
give
I would
you-
have to see how I could get a register for those, because the way the checks are done, they're done at the school level, so it's not something that I have in the system to be able to run a check register like this. So I would have to, it would be just, basically the bank statement.
Right. Maybe I can show you a full example.
Sure.
You know,
You can
maybe,
tell- you can tell me too. And my
at some
is
point, it might be
simply-
helpful to have you sit together outside of the committee,
Yeah.
just and reach an understanding and so
And
forth.
my point here is simply to give the,
Yeah.
in one sense, the school committee, that's an area that, again, as I said, not saying there's anything wrong going on. It's
Yeah.
just an area that makes the news, is where you see one of the higher potentials for even honest mistakes.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's good just
Absolutely.
to get some visibility on it at the superintendent's, school committee level now and
Okay.
I will
Any-
say that, like, they have been working on the activity funds. That's something that we've been asking for a while, but with Liza coming in and then taking over things. So
Yeah.
I think, I agree with you. I think having those things is good, but it's not for, their lack of desire to provide it, and it hasn't been provided.
Mhm.
I'm trying. Well, this, going back to your point earlier when we were talking about, oversight and accountability and different things that we want to get out of this meeting, that's certainly something that it might be a bit much to have maybe at a typical school committee meeting, because it can be
Getting into
cumbersome
the
with a lot of
weeds
it, getting a
a
little
lot,
bit into
yeah.
the weeds, but
Yeah.
certainly if we're talking about on a quarterly basis, or even if it's, halfway through the year, we say this is what we're looking at, it's absolutely something that can be provided. And if you do have an example of something in mind that you're looking for, please let me know. Please share that, and if it's something that we can accommodate, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. All right, thank you. So that was on the check register, letter item 6C. The other ones, whichever you want to take next in order, it's up to you.
So the next one we'll do is the UCO budget file. This is pretty
Okay.
straightforward, so I did send everyone an example of what that string file is. That is so that is the original budget that was approved before any changes that came with regarding state aid or anything. So that's the actual one that's done as soon as the budget is approved. It has been accepted by RIDE, it is on the website, and it's documented that we were able to get that to them within the time frame that they expect. And I have recently actually had communications with them saying we have made some budget adjustments just based on changes in state aid and the various different things that have come up since that approval, and asked them if they need us to send a new file. They do not, but we are going to. They're not going to do anything with that new file. And I said, well, that's what we're going to be basing all of our UCOA stuff on, so we're kind of having a little back and forth, because I'd like that to be the representative file.
I think we have to, because it's a different number.
It is,
And I
it is,
think we
it's
actually
actually a
have to
higher
approve
number.
that tomorrow night, like,
I agree.
yeah.
So I don't think they're gonna give us any issue on that. I didn't push the issue until we talked about it tomorrow night. And, you know, based on if that's approved and everything is set.
We can't approve it tomorrow night, I had sent a note, but it's on there as a report, not as an action item.
No.
Yeah, so we'll have to add that to a future agenda.
I will, in anticipation, unless, you know, there's any serious issues with it, but in anticipation of that, I will get the new string ready. I have everything in the system ready to go, I just haven't hit the button in terms of our system until I have the okay with that, but I will have everything prepared so that as soon as it is, I will send it over to RIDE. And again, I don't foresee them having an issue with them changing the file.
Okay, any further questions on that particular item, UCOA budget file FY25? Anybody else? All right, revenue expenses through 9/30/24.
Okay. So the report, where do I have my report? So the report that I provided is very straight, almost profit and loss style report. There are no projections in it, there's no anticipated anything, so it's really just to kind of let you know what our spending has been, what money has come in. This is something that I look at daily for myself, just to make sure that if there's things that I'm anticipating, if I'm not seeing them, I'm catching it right away. So this is a report that I can easily provide as often as you need. So if this is something that you would like, I can try and make sure that anytime we meet, this is made available, or if you request it at any time, I can run it fairly easily. If this is not what we are expecting here, please let me know so that I can amend and make sure that I'm giving the committee, you know, the information that they're looking for. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you move on to the next one or not?
No, I was just
Oh,
gonna,
please,
I was
please
just gonna
proceed.
say, there
Okay.
are a few like footnotes and
Proceed.
assumptions that I did put in here, just because I know at, you know, first blush, you might look at something and your eyes might, you know, jump out, because it looks like we have, you know, big deficits in certain places,
Yep.
but that's money that's already been allocated and that will get moved, based on like ESSER funding and things
Yep.
that the school committee has already approved. So I just did highlight those out, just so that everyone was kind of aware. Does anyone have any questions on this?
questions?
I think we talked about tuition from other LEAs.
Mhm.
So if you could maybe explain for everyone why it looks like it's under projection.
Yes, so there, when we're talking about money that is coming from other districts, what is represented right now in this document, because it's only through 9/30, are essentially all of the Q1 payments that we've received from other public districts. What is not represented here are the funds that we receive from Jamestown. So those are billed on a different schedule than what we would typically bill another LEA. And so those payments don't come in until usually the end of October and beginning of November. So the next time we meet, we'll realize, though, they get realized in the first quarter, it's just that's when they come out, but they do get accounted for in the quarter that they apply to. So the next report that you see, it won't look as over projected as it does now, because it's actually fairly in line. It's just under 500,000 that we anticipate getting from them based on the enrollment, which was what was budgeted for. So if you add that to the current dollars that you see on that line item, it aligns pretty much to what our quarterly projection is for revenue received from other districts. So I know that was, you know, a
Yeah,
question.
so the fourth quarter payment though doesn't show up till when? Into July by contract?
By contract, however, typically we receive, they're very good about when we get those dollars in. But to your earlier question, it does get booked to the appropriate year. So when those dollars, when the cash comes in, the cash gets acknowledged in the time that it's received, but it is accounted for in the revenue for,
Right.
but it will be fiscal
I think,
24.
Mr. Chair, there was just a
Yeah.
point that maybe it's an area that administration and school committee want to think about, since I believe the contract is up this year. Correct, am I right? The Jamestown was a
No, we
3-year.
just did it.
Oh. Well then,
Trying to remember exactly when, but we recently did it 2 years ago.
Was it, do you know?
so I thought it was a 3-year, when I researched it, sorry. It said it
Yeah,
was
I'll look
the
at
last,
that and
the last
see,
year.
because we redid the contract, it was actually my last
Right.
year there, so.
I saw that it
so
was
if it-
approved.
if it's a 3-year, we need to look at that again next year.
I
So it's
thought it was
coming.
approved November 22, but it was
I'll look it up.
it was retroactive to July 1st, 22, so so in theory, to me, that would end after FY '25, which
Right.
is this year. So I guess my general point is, if it's something that's on your horizon, it may be something the next school committee, and we're, the superintendent may wanna, as you said, it's slightly generous.
Yeah.
in
You're
terms
talking
of-
about the
in terms-
float, like
in terms of the cash
being able to
flow.
keep their money and then it's not in our account, it's in their account collecting.
Well, right,
interest.
and I think the general point, I've always said again, charters billed on the first day of enrollment, which
Right.
always seemed to me
Yeah,
very
very
And I can
lenient.
tell you just from being right in the midst of that, a lot of that has to do with when it was actually being billed from NK to Jamestown.
Correct.
We actually had asked, I'm gonna go back to my Jamestown seat, we actually had asked for that to be sooner for budgetary purposes. And we were always told that it couldn't be because they were waiting for reports to come in from RIDE, which was why it was pushed off later. And billing was not coming to Jamestown until later in the quarter, which was the end of each quarter. And then that's why when we received those at the end of each quarter, we then made our
Right,
payments.
I believe with the new formula, making it simpler,
Mhm.
that it, again, it's a
Okay.
recommendation that maybe you wanna look at the timing
I
to,
think Jamestown would be very happy to receive the bills plus what those tuitions would be in a much sooner, more efficient manner, because it impacts their budget just as it
Right.
impacts our budget.
Remember that conversation?
Yes,
Mm.
right there, same.
So it's been on the radar here,
Yes.
I guess, huh? All right.
maybe a win-win.
And
Yeah.
being new into
Yeah.
this conversation, like I welcome any, historical knowledge of what it was, because the process, I am basing it just on what has been done with contracts, says this is how it has been done year over year over year. If we as a committee think that this is something that needs to change, I'm all ears, I'm happy to do it. I would always like to be able to recognize and receive revenue in a more timely manner, so, if.
And I think they would appreciate knowing what the tuition is much sooner so they can budget for it and receive those bills in a more timely manner. So that's something we can look at and see.
Yeah, so when the contract window comes up, we'll have a number for tuition and maybe we can bill sooner and then everybody hopefully can be happy with that.
Yeah, on the flip side too, Kenny, I mean, charters are supposed to give their numbers in April from the lottery. I don't know if they've been very good about doing that. And I know it causes a lot of angst because you're budgeting it for it in February and March. I know they're probably pretty good at sending their bills on the first day
They're
of
very good.
enrollment.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering, it might be helpful, not for this meeting, of course, maybe November, December meeting to sort of see the charter, the OOD numbers in general, the
Okay.
general trends, like, just for budgeting, like Kingston Hill, how many fifth graders are NK or, aging out? Compass, eighth grade, how many are aging out versus Zoom, right, versus their slots. I think it's, a little disingenuous by RIDE that, not every charter school seat is open because of the sibling and founder rules. And so it's kind of helpful, right, for the district to at least know what they're losing and potentially what they're getting sooner or not.
This sounds like it could be a subject matter for a subcommittee.
No, but
The Jones subcommittee perhaps. Yeah.
I just think
You
it's
seem like an expert on the
general
topic.
good to sort of,
Yeah.
there's been, the district won a lawsuit against one of them for fraudulent, I'll take that back, for perhaps enrollment practices that weren't in accordance with the law, so.
And we have modified laws to respond to some of the problems that were there in the past. So.
But I mean, this is obviously on the demand side, something that's big bill for the district,
Mhm.
and one, you don't want to get caught short, right, after you
Mhm.
do your projections. So I just think having the visual history and seeing what the trends are might be helpful for the next school committee and the administration as it builds the 26 budget.
It was an issue that we were aware of that were up in the legislature, that's, once the students had enrolled in the school, they got the payment, and then some students bounced back to their home school, and there was either a delay or there wasn't a payment back. I mean, that was the
Well,
problem.
what happens
You're on the
if they after day one are counted in the seat,
Mm.
but they're not there, we still have to pay.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is
Yes.
And they may not,
And there's
they're
no
not there
what they,
proration.
what they call unfair.
Right, yeah. So they're getting funds for students they don't have.
It's good for business, but not for us. All right, anything else on that topic? Ms. Lehman, any questions? Okay. All right, thank you.
I just,
Go ahead, Bob.
no,
No, I
One more.
just, the Medicaid flow, I know that's historically been uneven to begin with, so I just don't know how the Medicaid revenues have been looking. I mean, how well the provider, the claims firm is doing in getting those revenues.
So, the claims provider, I think, is good, decent. I've worked with them in the past, and so I'm familiar and kind of know when and how I can push in different things. There are a few things that I've already pointed out just in, there's some time studies that we do, and there's a couple of other areas that I think that we could be doing more. And I think there's some things I talked to Dr. Santa about, and I think we're kind of all on the same page and on board with that. In terms of where we stood, like budget to actual, if we're looking at fiscal year '24, we were fairly close to what we anticipated. So, I think it's not a particularly large revenue source for the district compared to other districts in terms of, what we have and what we can bill for. But I do think that there's a little bit more that we could do, and it's certainly something that we can look into. And like I said, I've already kind of started those discussions to see what actions we can take outside of the agency that we use.
And I know that's something within the Student Services Department they've been looking at, to be able to identify
Mhm.
the services that do count for Medicaid. It's also, it's not just services that we provide through, almost a human services, because there's an aid or service. It's also through the types of evaluations that are completed. So that is looked at as well, to make sure that we are collecting the right data, so we can get as much back as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a couple of areas that we've already identified that I think we felt comfortable, at least like for fiscal year '25, we had the conversation of slightly raising the revenue for Medicaid, because we're confident that that would work. But, it's definitely an open conversation right now.
Any further questions? Ronan, anytime you want to jump in, you can do maybe off screen or something. Although maybe we can't have your voice on.
No, voice
media
is
either,
fine.
so
Voice is
you're
fine.
good. You're good. All right. Current fund balance. I think it's something we haven't done.
Yeah, kind of fund
Please.
balance. So that was just a basic kind of update from the last school committee meeting. It's the document that I had given to the school committee meeting in August. I did make a few updates to it just in some transfers that were made from general fund, just recognizing and showing them now in the NK capital fund.
Yep.
And Ms. Lima did point out a couple of questions, and she and I have spoken about it. And so there's a couple areas that I think I want to go back and take a second peek at. This will be a document that's given to the auditors, so we're going to just make sure that it's cleaned up and it aligns with all. There's a lot of changes that came out of the school committee over the summer, and so we just want to make sure that everything aligns and that we're all on the same page.
And where does that go to the auditor? Roseanne?
So as soon as it's ready, as soon as we're comfortable with the numbers, it'll go to the auditor.
So was there a difference from the last time in August when we presented?
So based on the notes that I have, that's the numbers that you see represented here, but we think that there may be something that got added as opposed to replaced. And so I just wanna go through and confirm those. It has to do with the fire alarm and masonry fees. So if you look on this document, the last one in August was actually combined. That number was rolled up. So we separated it out, and then there were some dollars from, I believe, physical plant that were assigned to that. And I think in the breakout, I took it as these were dollars that were being added, but we think it might have been a replacement. So I just want to go back and look at the notes and make sure that we have that correct.
So I think, just to clarify, the number that is appearing here is overstated.
Correct, yes, correct.
Now, I think we,
Over, on the NK, when we look at that, it's rolling up all of the fund balances at the
Yeah,
bottom
yeah.
to get to the total number.
okay.
Yeah, the unassigned balance is correct, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Now, I think we have, are we gonna put this on the next meeting's agenda, Ken? This item here?
The fund balance?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
we-
never come back.
Yeah, we certainly
Come
can.
back, okay.
Mhm.
Let's do that, just to have another look, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. So just for clarification then.
Sure.
The way the document reads is, that was the beginning of 24 audited balance. And the summary through 24 does not include the 24 end of year surplus that gets rolled.
No, not at this point.
So it's not really, there's actually more, I guess is my point.
And there will be more. So when we finalize all of the documents that we are gonna send over to the auditor, we've made any, adjusting entries, any, things we have that are dealing with our trial balance. Once we have all of our documents uploaded to the auditor, then that unaudited number will be put on this document, and then eventually this will get rolled and get replaced with the audited figure. So the document that you're looking here is like based on all of the information that transpired in fiscal year 24, this is where we would anticipate, this was what we would anticipate our number to be. And then, like I said, once I've supplied all of my documents, then I will almost there'll be another layer added at the bottom of this. It's gonna be what our anticipated end of year fund balance or beginning year fund balance would be.
Okay. Any further questions?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
So did you want to go back to anything, Leslie, on the enrollment document? We just got that, so I wasn't sure if you want to address that anyway.
That was just a request, it was one of the documents that
Okay.
was requested from Mr. Jones, so
Yep.
I wanted to make sure that we included it, so I didn't know if there's anything specific that he had wanted to discuss with it.
Bob, was there something on there you wanted to
I
address?
would, but considering, I know you literally just did census. I think it was the 18th, I remember the right date of dictionary is. I would maybe, Ken, suggest for the next one, what might be very useful is some dissection of, like, okay, here's the total population, but how much is NK, how much is out of district CTE, how much is, and I know you can glean some of that from here, but how much of it is Jamestown, how much of it is Jamestown CTE? How much is some sensitivity, so you start to see some trend data in terms of, NK to NK, all right, CTE to CTE, and
I'll
the
also
sending
have, I can
communities.
bring to the next meeting, I've been working on a historical data document, so we can look over the
Right.
years, just so we can see what those trends have been with enrollment across the district. So I can bring that as well, we're compiling that, putting that together, especially prior to the budget period coming up. So I'll have that I can
Yeah.
share as well.
And, I don't know how quickly Ryan makes this available at the Fred site, but, yeah, it's in Excel, I can play around with it.
Okay.
But I think some of that differentiation that wouldn't be available, right? Like, how much is CTE, how much is not, would be useful, I think, to the.
And we keep
down
that at
the
the
road.
high school level, so I can
Right.
get that, we have that broken down as far as our high school enrollment, looking at the CTE programs by CTE program of how many students are coming in, how many are our Kingstown residents, how many are residents from other districts as well. So I have that, Mr. Gormley keeps all of that data for us.
Any further questions? Okay.
Well, I guess I'm sorry.
Bob?
I just had just one bottom line number, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to read the grand total versus the column, so, is 3787 no kidding, that's how many headcount students.
That would be for this year, and then we have the previous year. So that total, that's that time,
Right.
snap within
Mhm.
October 1 of who's here.
Any further questions?
You mentioned that you wanted to have this in Excel, Dr. D, but do you know, are we able to
I-
get this document?
We'll find out. I know when we download it, when we get it from the RIDE site, but it might be options of Excel or PDF.
Okay.
So you can,
Yeah, I can get it from Ride Excel. It's just you can't get the, like, the certain characteristics we can't get from Ride.
Any further questions? Okay, so then the next one is upcoming contract negotiations. Leslie, are you on that, or Ms. Lima, did you
Yeah,
want
I
to
can-
discuss that, or?
I can bring that
Oh,
up.
can you want to, okay, because I know that you wanted to talk about it as well.
So I thought it was important that we bring that up because we do have negotiations coming up with contracts, which is going to impact our budget, upcoming budget for FY '26. So we do have 2 contracts this year. We have the Bus Association, NK Bus Contractors Association contract that is up, and we have the NK Educational Support Professionals. So we'll be beginning negotiations. It's also on school committee agenda for tomorrow night to have a school committee member approved to be sitting on both of those negotiations along with us. And then we'll be setting up dates and times so we can start those negotiations. Probably, November, December. I know both groups are asking as well. It's important that we do start that prior to the budget cycle. And so we'll be able to keep this group informed to a certain point, because negotiations are closed and confidential, but we could, from what we can share, we will share.
And what's the exact date of expiration on those?
The end of this year.
End
So they would
of.
Yep, they would expire June of.
Count.
of this
Okay, academic year.
Of this
Yeah,
this school year, so June of '25. So the hopes would be, and being very optimistic, that we start negotiations and we have all of that completed
Before that.
prior to them.
Okay. Comments, questions? All right. Any other comments, questions? Nothing? Okay. All right, so I guess it brings us to item number 9. 8, my bad, number 8. So the next meeting we have scheduled for November 18, 2024. The items I have listed here, just jotting them down. If I missed something, please let me know. If there's something you think we need to add to the agenda, please let me know as well. I have current fund balance. We want to rehash that again, revisit that topic. That would be the first thing. Second thing, I want to establish, I'm going to share with you, Leslie Ann, those items I talked about on a quarterly oversight basis for this committee, regular duties, just to keep that information coming, just periodic look-ins onto these items like capital improvement fund, budget of, review budget to actuals, those type of things. The other thing was the enrollment trends. Bobby wanted something on that. Also, if we could get that in Excel format, that'd be great. Did you say you could help facilitate that, or not?
Right, I can just, when Joanne goes into our database
Yep.
and looking at how
Okay.
we download that, I think Excel is an option versus just PDF.
Okay, and now while not an agenda item, the point was made to look at when the Jamestown contract would expire and take a look at, the payment schedule, I guess, on that issue. Was there anything else that I missed that we need to place on there?
I just think it's important that we talk about the maintenance cycle for our buildings. I know that's one of the goals we put through with
Yes.
this committee. I just want to make sure that we do start having those conversations, because as we start building the budget, I want to make sure that we are budgeting for our current buildings. I've been having conversations with our new director of facilities of making sure we can go through the system, looking at the systems within our building and the cycles of for maintaining them. There would be typical inspections and services that you do on those systems, but also making sure that on top of that, we are looking at like end of life and when do we need to start preparing for replacements, and making sure that we are budgeting for those types of situations and putting it into our budget or capital and working with the town on that.
In fact, it was one of the items I have, quarterly maintenance funds over a certain dollar amount, project sources of revenue. Something we need to look at, I agree. So you want that on the next,
I think it's
the next
important that we
agenda?
do keep that on the agenda so that
Yep.
we are moving forward on
Yep.
creating that.
And I agree, I think that's been a concern that's been expressed generally about keeping buildings maintained, and that we need to have a steady revenue source, or at least something set aside to do those projects. Any other comments or questions or contributions?
I think just for clarification,
Yeah.
since I think you mentioned it, but just to distinguish the special revenue against the enterprise.
Yep.
So the nutrition, I just had a general question, and again, maybe it's not for next time, but when we talk about the nutrition fund, the extent that designating Quid as a CEP has impacted that fund, which we can talk about later. Offshoot on that. Mentioned something, now I forgot it. Oh, well, I can bring it up.
But we got
yes,
time
I
to set the
think,
agenda going out, because we've got plenty of time to do that long runway, or long enough. Any other comments or questions?
You had requested, at the beginning of the meeting, we had talked about having that fiscal year '24 numbers after we have the audit fieldwork. So if I have that information available, and I can provide that, I will.
Okay, so,
Which I can't imagine that I would,
Okay.
so.
so on, as an agenda item
Mhm.
for next meeting, okay. All right, anything else? Nothing? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The ayes have it. We're adjourned.